The Wellness Show, episode 107. And by the way, watch right to the end. We have a special offer for everyone.
Welcome to The Wellness Show, a podcast on health and wealth. I'm your host, Tyhson Banighen, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. All right, welcome to The Wellness Show. And on the call today, we have Tara Bradley, and we are going to talk about tea leaves and beyond. And Tara comes from a lineage of Fey people, her ancestors, that actually read tea, which I find really fascinating because you just told me that you just discovered this after you started doing it on your own. So tell me the story.
Yeah, so the story of the lineage and how I ended up being a tea leaf reader. Yeah. So I had a friend. I was living in Walla Walla, Washington at the time. She owned a frozen yogurt shop, and she would sell tea and tea things, spoons and cups and pots and tea leaves and all of that. And every year she would have a tea leaf reading party, and she would invite her psychic tea leaf reader to come and do that reading for all of her customers. And this year, you know, it was about 6.5, 7 years ago, but that year the psychic wasn't able to make it. And my friend Beth asked me if I would do the tea leaf reading for her. And I said, my goodness, no, I own a business in town. I don't want to be known as some woo-woo psychic. And she said, but you're very, very, very intuitive. And I knew that I have intuition, but it wasn't something that I could just draw on and just call up and do it when I decided. It was just something that would happen spontaneously and randomly. And so I said, no, I don't think I could do that. That's quite out of my comfort zone. And long story short, she convinced me. So I was really curious anyway about whether or not I would be able to do this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I kind of rose to the challenge. I actually Googled how to tea leaf read. There was lots of information. There was different styles and different techniques. And so I showed up the next day to do some tea leaf reading. And I said to her, you know, we should probably tell people that I'm not a real psychic because I don't want anyone to be fooled, right?
Yeah.
And so she said, no, that's fine. So the first lady sat down at the table in front of me, and I thought, you know what, if I tell her that I'm not real, then she will change how she interacts with me. So maybe I will tell her afterward. So I just opened up to the intuition I already had anyway and decided that I was going to let things flow. I designed my own technique for the teacup and the tea leaves. And so I just began and trusted the process. And so many things came to me. So many things were so accurate for her and just profound. And she was just like, yes, and boom, and you know, everything was just so there and present. And by the time we were finished, she was kind of in tears. It was a very, very impactful session for her. And we had made so many profound connections for her and created a lot of clarity and focus for her. And she was so emotional that I thought, how can I tell her that this wasn't real?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and something had happened, and it was quite real, obviously, because of the accuracy. So I chose not to say that because something definitely was there. And I spent the whole day doing the same thing, making connections, creating clarity, accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. And the whole time I was surprised myself, right? And just kind of watching it from outside of myself and watching everything unfold and just kind of thinking, wow, what is happening here? So all day long, that's the way it went. And I went home and I talked to my husband and I said, this is what happened. And he said, yeah, of course. And I said, what do you mean, of course? And he said, well, you're intuitive. This is what you've always been able to do this. And I said, oh, not like this. not with such accuracy and pinpointed and being able to call on it. And he said, yeah, I don't know, but it's you. And so I kind of did a lot of analyzing. I'm very analytical. I'm very skeptical. And I did a lot of analyzing, and I think it has to do with permission. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I think it does, yes. I think it does.
Yeah, yes. That's right. So they sit down in front of you, and there's an energy triad, their energy and my energy and source energy. And when you have that perfect triad happening, then everything is available, right?
That is very, very cool and very exciting. And then you started to do some ancestral research, right?
I didn't even have to do any research. I hadn't told my mom, what I was doing. That day spurred me to go further and read for friends and just do this, and practice and practice and practice. So I practiced for a long time, over a year. And then I was doing it so much, 5-6 hours a day, that my husband just said, you need to either stop doing this, or you need to charge for your time, because you're spending so much time away from home and away from the family that and so I decided I'm not going to stop, because I feel amazing. I feel like I'm in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing. So I started doing it professionally. One day I was headed off to do a reading for somebody, and my mom had asked, where are you going? And I hadn't told her what I was doing professionally. And
now, how long was this? How long had you been doing this before you told your mom?
Another 2 years after I had started doing it. Yeah. So, so I decided, I'm just going to tell her what I'm doing. So I said, yeah, I'm just going to go off and I'm going to do an intuitive reading for somebody. And she said, what? And I said, yeah, I'm going to do some tea leaf reading. I've been doing it for a while now. And she started laughing. And she said, that's perfect. That's perfect for you, because you're so intuitive. And then she said, and she just chuckled, and she said, your great-grandmother was a tea leaf reader for the people of Dawson Creek for years and years and years.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, are you kidding me? Right?
Well, that's a great story.
I came by it.
So what were you doing before you were tea reading?
So before I was tea leaf reading, I owned a very successful direct sales business, and was communicating and connecting with women all over the world. It was for skincare and beauty products. And so I was doing that. And I've been a detention officer and at juvenile detention. I've done so many different things.
But this is your love now.
This is exactly what I'm supposed to be here on Earth for.
That's great. Well, that's exciting. And it's great that you found that out. And so, so any hot tips about that for somebody else who says, well, gee, I'm intuitive, but I don't want to let anybody know?
When we embrace who we are, everything flows perfectly, whether we expect the results or not, right?
Right. So when you show up and be courageous about who you are and the passion that's driving you, guess what? The universe conspires to help you. Well, you're a living example of that. So how long have you now been doing this?
About 6.5, 7 years now.
Wow. So I know that you do far more than tea reading. I mean, tea reading is really, I guess it's like the tarot. It's just you get permission from somebody and it just opens the door to unlimited knowledge and possibilities. So one of the questions I would have is, how do you know that not to overwhelm your client? Because you're going to know everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah. So you're right. Like, it's the permission part, and then tea leaves or tarot cards or rune stones, all kinds of tools that we use. They're just kind of like, glasses, like putting on glasses and having that focus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
The energy is all the same. It just takes a different set of glasses for each practitioner. And mine happens to be easily tea leaves. Although I have said to people that they could be Rice Krispies or sticks or whatever. It doesn't have to be tea leaves. It's the ability to just be able to be open to source and have what comes. And then there is some translation that happens, because I receive impressions more than I receive words and more than I receive pictures. So the impression has to be translated into words, and then translated into words that that person can receive, right? But I did miss your question, didn't I? What
No,
do you
that's
remember
fine.
what your question?
Who knows what the question does? It doesn't matter. So yeah, I was just curious, because people know that they are intuitive, and for you, this was sort of a quantum jump. I mean, you knew you were intuitive. Your husband said you're intuitive, but owning that and moving from the corporate, analytical world into allowing yourself to show up and do what you're here to do was a bit of a jump. So I was just saying, for others out there that that you're intuitive and you are in a job that doesn't allow that to come through, that you're a good example of just bite the bullet, follow your passion, follow your dreams, show up and just deliver. So that was really the message I was trying to get across. So when you do this, have you done it in a group? Like, do you do it
Yeah.
do you do it in a group? So I'm going to ask you something right off the top. We haven't even talked about this. So what's the impressions that you have right here that you feel that could be go out to the readers right now? I mean, we're in a very, very important time on the planet. We're in the midst of a change around. We're in year one. We're finishing a 26,500 year cycle or somewhere around there. Some people say it was 2012 or 2004. Who knows? But we're turning the corner. There's going to be more light on the planet. And I know lots of people that I'm aware of are really trying to figure this all out. There's a lot going on, almost too much. They feel overwhelmed. So I was just wondering, if there is something coming through you when I am stop talking and be quiet so that you can tune in, that might be coming through from you for everybody on the call.
Yeah, you know what? As soon as you started to say that, one of the biggest things is what we were talking about just prior, which is probably why it spurred your question. We're going to need to trust our intuition. We're going to need to hone our abilities and the intuition, because those are what matter. Those things will be our currency. Those things will be what assists the shift to happen. Learning how to trust it, practicing and practicing and practicing. And just 2 days ago, I had a huge epiphany or revelation that said to create a course to teach just the average person who has been getting messages from the universe in little ways or just starting to wake up, to create some courses for these people to be able to hone in, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Trust your intuition.
And that's the big, yeah.
So I think if I can interpret that, and these are my words and you can correct them, is that while the analytical, rational mind was great to get us to where we are on this planet and probably was the dominant energy for the last 500 years since Christopher Columbus supposedly discovered America, that we've been locked into this belief system that that's the only way to know. And if we continue to do it the way that we've done, we're going to be so overwhelmed. There's so much information coming at us so fast, and it's exponentially growing in every second with all the technology, all the equipment, all the messengers, false flags, false news, all this stuff. It's impossible to sort out what's what and what's real. So we're really left with having to go inwardly to our guidance to know what is right and what is wrong and what is specifically correct for us to make our own steps. So really what you're saying is to help us stay sane in this time of rapid transformation and change is we have to rely on our guidance.
Absolutely. There's no question. And the people who will rely on the analytical part of themselves or the scientific, not that, those things are beautiful. Let's not toss them out either.
No,
but
I agree.
There will be a dinosaur aspect to that, right? That the shift will happen and then so many people will be awake and so much more conscious that those who aren't will be the ones who are at a disadvantage.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and there was another clue that you said in the word that you used when you talked about intuition and guidance. I think you used the words coinage. I think that's the word you used. But or you talked about it literally as an energy that was
Currency.
currency. That's what it was. It wasn't coinage.
Yes.
I went even further with
Yes.
it. But currency. I mean, currency is electricity, it's energy, it's flow, but it's also what we call money. We put it onto dollars. And what you're talking about is a new currency on the planet. This is a currency that connects us heart to heart. It doesn't have the dreaded consequences or the feelings. I don't know. This is my interpretation, but sometimes money just feels yucky. It just does. It takes so much energy to clean it all up. When we talk about currency in the way you're talking about, of guidance, flow, connection, spirit, interconnection, helping each other, then it has a real purity to it. It has something that, hey, I can just buy into it, using the terms, of coinage. I can buy into it and I can receive it.
And it comes directly from ourselves. We create it, we produce it.
Yeah.
Right? We don't rely on somebody else to hand it to us or to trade for time or whatever.
Right. It's just us showing up, being us. And when we do that, we benefit from each other. It's almost, some people would say it's magic. So that's pretty exciting. So as you move forward into this course, do you have any ideas of what that might look like? Have you had some downloads around that?
The course that I'm creating?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We're going to have to do preliminary exercises so that we can learn how to trust what comes to us, or even recognize first what's coming to us, and then how to trust what's coming to us, and then how to use what's coming to us, and how to call it up and use it, the permission aspects, the taking care of our own crap before we work with others. I think that's really, really important. Those kinds of things.
Yeah. So how do you, I mean, the big $64,000 question in dowsing or intuition is, how do I trust the answers that I receive? And so how do you deal with that? I mean, I know in your case, you just open yourself up and it comes. So at this point, there's really no doubt. But in the beginning, there's
doubt.
Is there doubt?
There's doubt.
How do you balance that between, not letting the ego have its say? I mean, there has to be interpretation, like you said. You get impressions, feelings, whatever. It needs to be translated into language that somebody can understand. And that is a point at which the ego could come in and say, well, I got the answer. But really, you're talking from the higher part of yourself and allowing that to come through. So there is a quality control issue in there that I know most people are fascinated with. How do I do that? How do I trust my pendulum? How do I trust my guidance? How do I trust my intuition? How do I know I'm on the money, so to speak? There's money again.
Yeah, right. So there's a couple of things that I could answer with that. One of them is that you got to do it a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So that you can get the feeling of what feels right. I was fortunate that when I started doing this, I noticed that information was coming from certain directions.
Yeah.
And I first didn't pick up on that right away, that was the case, but I started to notice that when I was checking to see if it was my opinion or something that came from my experiences of walking through this life, or really if it was just directly from source and for that person, I could tell the difference from the directions that it was coming. So that was one thing, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of send up sonar, very quick, fast, without even knowing, but I quantified it. Again, I'm quite analytical. So I'm sending these messages very, very quickly and getting ping back like sonar would ping back. And then if the ping back isn't quite clear, I'll send up another very quick. And so again, it's been refined so that it's directional and it's coming from here. If it's my stuff, it's kind of coming from here. So that's one thing. The other thing is I ask those people that I'm doing readings for feedback, always.
Right.
I trust their information and their intuition as well. So a reading is not them sitting down and me telling them everything. And it's not really a trick pony situation where I give them their future and say, this is what's going to happen to you, and you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger and have 3 children. It's a dialogue, and and their intuition is trusted in this as well, right?
Yeah, so it's
And
a
their feedback.
co-creative process then.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And then I always say, please, like there are some things that we see in the cup that make no sense, perhaps right now. But I have learned over these years that I can trust that I will say the words that come or translate the impression that comes, and it will make sense at some point for those people. And when it does, get back to me. Let me know. Hey, Tara, remember when we saw the dog pulling the wagon and we couldn't figure out why?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I remember that was a story from my childhood, and here's how it applies to my life today, right? And so that feedback later.
So do you have any body impressions? I know for me, when I'm going to use the term money again. I don't know why this is a money show, but when I'm on the money, I actually feel the flow in my back. I feel it in the kundalini. I have a rush. I used to be on one side, now it's almost full blown. And so I think that's my indication that there's what I'm about to say is absolutely not from me. It's coming through me. Do you have any of those sorts of impressions that give you the ha-ha that you're tuned in?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Like I get tingles down my spine as well, up and down. I get goosebumps on my arms when something's very profound.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get an impression that comes from the cup, and it seems so silly that I don't even want to say it out loud. And it'll come back, and it'll come back, and it will come back, and I have to say it.
And aren't those the most profound ones?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I found. I mean, when I want to say it, but I've been told to say it, and I don't want to say it, and I don't want to say it. And finally, I get it out, and I think, well, this is going to really upset the apple cart. It's the one that really goes the deepest and registers the most. And yeah, so again, I guess this whole thing about what you're going to be teaching people is how to trust all these clues, right? That they're already receiving from all these different levels of being aware. Well, that's pretty neat and exciting. So yeah. So what else is up?
What else is up? Well, I'm going to be doing some pretty amazing fairs soon. If anybody wants to come and check me out.
Yeah, so that's in person, but you don't need to just work in person, because the reason I'm saying that quickly is we're in 41 different countries. So just because you say show up in person, if you're in the Okanagan, in Shuswap, Okanagan region of British Columbia, by all means show up and meet her in person. And where can they do that? So let's deal with that first. What's some of the things? I know there's a Vernon. There's one in Kelowna coming up and one in Vernon, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm going to be at the Mystic Affair at Tidal Elements Healing Art Studio on February 11th from 10 to 7. So that's in Vernon. And in Kelowna, I'll be doing Illuminate 2017 this year again. And that's at the Rotary Center for the Arts on the January 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
Yeah, so show up there and have a reading. Go ahead.
Yeah, and yeah, I do phone distance. I do Skype and phone. Probably going to start doing Zoom now that I've got it figured out.
But yeah, being able to see people and then being able to read your expressions and to see what you're doing, I think is really, really valuable. But yeah, it allows you to have clients all over the world. They get to see you, which is like having a reading. You can actually even show them the cup. So, what the leaves look like and ask them what they think. So yeah, it would, for you, it's like being in the same room. It maybe not exactly the same, but pretty darn close. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Yeah, thinking about how limited it used to be, how we could, only be working with people in close proximity. Now we can work with anybody, anywhere in the world. The only barriers that we have now are maybe language barriers, but as we become more intuitive, even that will become less of a problem. So, as you do your readings, and we call it tea leaves and beyond, how long is your average reading, and what does it involve? Anything and everything, or what?
What do you mean? What does it involve? Like
is there sort of like in a tarot reading, you have one layout and they have another layout. And for me, I used to say, well, is that enough? Because I didn't want to reveal too much, right? So I would say, well, is that enough? They said, no, I want more. I do another layout and go deeper and deeper, so that I didn't blow my client off the face of the earth, so to speak, by giving them too much when they're not ready for it. So I was just wondering whether in tea reading there's some layers to it that allows you to go deeper and deeper, or do you're already guided that way to give them exactly what they want to the extent that they need?
Yeah, so I have learned over the years, and thankfully the cup is a nice little finite vessel, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I have learned over the years that what shows up in the cup is what we need to talk about. And they are welcome to ask questions, and a lot of times those answers are there. More often than not, they are, because the universe has already known what they needed and what questions are happening. And so the readings last about half an hour to an hour. And because people do have budgets, we are still in a monetary system, they will say, please give me half an hour. And sometimes after that half an hour, they will say, I think I need another half an hour, and we can continue. I just don't want them to ever stress that their budget isn't going to fit with what happens, right?
Right.
The cup holds that information. The cup, what's there is what we need to talk about. And sometimes we can talk a little bit about the thing. Sometimes we can talk a lot about the thing, right?
Mm-hmm. So the cup is a safe container that contains what needs to be talked about in that session. That's really quite a comforting thing, isn't it, when you think about that? It has safe boundaries. It's showing up in that moment. And the next moment, if you did it, would be different. There'd be different pattern in the leaves. So it's really for that person in this moment and that moment only. So yeah, I can really see, never thought of it that way, just what a perfect vessel it is to be able to use to read. Whereas with a crystal ball, you could be looking everywhere and anywhere, past, present, future. You could be all over the place, multi-universe.
Well, and to be sure, there are things in the cup, in that moment, that are in that cup that apply very much to the past and also apply very much to the future. And people will ask, well, what about this? This is my plan. Does it feel like the right thing for me to do? Or when will this happen? And a lot of times those answers are there too, very concretely as well. So yeah, it's all expansive.
So that's interesting, because you're asking, people are asking you for insights or feedback. So you could actually use this in a business development then as well.
Yeah, all kinds of people and for all kinds of reasons have accessed me
Right.
and the reading.
So remember, folks, that this is not just, your loved one, or like you said, that dark, handsome one. I know you don't do that, but it can be your business or some sort of block or feeling, or just knowing that there's more information that you need, that you want to come through to take your business to the next level, that a reading can really help you with that as well. So we're about to wrap up. So how do people get hold of you?
My Facebook is one of the best places to start, because we're talking about worldwide, right? So facebook.com/Tara Bradley Intuitive. You can find me that way. And email address, tjbradleymail@gmail.com. And yeah.
No, that's great. It was great to have you on this show. I loved every moment of it. Thanks for asking all my weird and wonderful questions. And I look forward to seeing how you're doing and being part of that course, or helping you develop that course. So bye for now.
Bye-bye.
For quality online wellness products, courses, and services, visit our sponsors, thewellnessstore.ca and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy, located at thewellnessacademy.ca. To stay in touch, visit us at thewellnessshow.ca. And until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Hey, thanks for watching right through to the end. We do appreciate you here at The Wellness Show. And to show our appreciation at this wonderful time of year, we're going to be giving away a $50 gift certificate over the next 12 episodes. And at the end of the 12 episodes, we'll be giving a $500 grand prize gift certificate that you can spend at either the Wellness Store or the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Now, how do I get in to win this? Simple. Like, share, comment, or subscribe to our channel, and then come over to our Facebook page, The Wellness Show, and let us know that you did so. While you're there, you can also comment and enter into the conversation about the current episode and have answers back from Tyhson and the people that were interviewed. So again, like, comment, share, subscribe, and tell us you did so on the Facebook page. It will enter you in to win a $50 gift certificate, 12 of those, or the $500 grand prize gift certificate to be spent at the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy or the Wellness Show.